Welcome to the Journey of a Singer with me, your host, Nick Pritchard. Today I am back with my best friend, automotive designer and first returning podcast guest, Alexey Andreev. This episode is all about the gym, nutrition, debating the bro science and our approach to philosophy and everyday life. The episode was an opportunity for Alexey and I to catch up with each other, and we covered all of life's most important topics, such as Mike Menter's training techniques, are Rice Krispies a good energy source, and how World War II shapes our modern day perspective. So sit back and enjoy with today's marvellous guest, Alexey Andreev.
Dude.
That's it, we've started.
Yeah, we started.
Yeah,
we're back in the game, baby. Back in the game. Dude, how's it feel to be back on season 2?
Oh, bro, it's amazing. Season 2, the biggest
season
yet.
so far.
Yeah.
You're the first repeat guest I've had.
Look at that.
But you're going to be on every season, dude. Every season.
Oh, yeah. Every season I'll be
bigger
getting
by
bigger.
The day.
Bigger each season, stronger each season.
Bigger by the day.
Mike Menter training method will pay off, baby.
Oh, dude, I can't wait to get stuck.
We're going to get into that.
What have you been up to?
Let me think. Just working more, but there's not really anything I can talk about out there. Growing.
You've been training hard. But you've been training.
I've been training hard, but I've been training less.
This is something we need to...
Mike Menter, baby.
Every time we've messaged each other, this topic has come up and we've always wanted to save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
So I feel like we just jump in and address it now.
Yeah, that's right.
From what I understand, you are training by the principles that Mike Menter...
Yeah, right now I'm trying it out.
Which is what exactly?
Well, okay, so firstly, we agree that everybody claims to have one single method to train. So Lee Haney is like, oh, you should train 7 times a week or you should train all the time. And then that other dude I sent you to, I don't remember his name, but he was like, oh, you should train each body part, each session. So everyone tries to claim to have the answer. So potentially the Mike Menter thing is the same. Maybe it's just him talking crap basically and just saying that he has the answer. But because I want to do a lot of work and I don't have time to train super often, I'm just going to try this method of essentially the Mike Menter training method, which says that you should train maximum once every 3 or 4 days, and each body part you should train once every 2 weeks. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm doing chest, 2 weeks break, and then a chest again, and then in the meantime I'm doing back. That's on a 2-week break. I did that the other day, so I'm not doing that for 2 weeks. You know, arms, biceps, legs, all that good stuff.
And for people who think that sounds counterintuitive, we should point out that professional bodybuilders, including Mike Menter, have used that technique to prepare for shows.
He invented it, yeah.
And
Dorian Yates used it, and Dorian Yates became the biggest freak. He basically changed bodybuilding.
I struggle with it because our mentality is very much work hard, go get it. And I just think it goes against what we, like the Arnold mentality of he would train for 3 hours. I remember a video of him going, oh, and in the build up to the show, I would overtrain myself. I'd want to turn up to the show overtrained and people would tell me this was ridiculous, but this is what works for me.
This is the thing. It's funny because Mike Menter hated Arnold so much. Like, he literally hated him. And I think he talked a lot of crap about him and basically was essentially saying how dumb it was that he was doing like 3 or 4 hours. And to be honest, I probably agree that it's probably just Mike Menter hating on Arnold there. But like we said, in my case, I don't really have much choice because if I train too often, I feel like I'll distract from my work. So in this case, I don't really have much choice, but I do think it still makes logical sense because, well, there's one thing that he said in one of the videos where I was like, oh crap, that makes a lot of sense. He's like, if you're a bodybuilder, have you noticed every time you take 2 weeks off, you come back stronger? But then every time if you train like consistently every week, you're not really necessarily like consistently gaining strength. And I was like, damn, that's literally that always happens to me because I train chest. Then a week later, I'd train chest. Let's say I hit like a peak. And then a week later, I'd have like a really bad session. And it's almost like every other session was a good session. But still, I wouldn't like properly progress each time. I was kind of like floating around.
Yeah.
But then since I've started doing that, damn, every single session, I'm a little bit stronger.
Yeah, and your progress has been great. Every time you message me, you've been lifting weights.
Yeah, bro, I lift more. Today when we do chest later, I'm going to be lifting even more. I'm going to do 115, at least 11 reps.
Dude, you're going to destroy me.
It's going to be awesome.
It's really funny. So at the moment, we're kind of on absolute opposite.
We're on opposites, baby.
Because I set myself a target at the start of this year to exercise every single day.
That was it. That's what we were going to talk about. We were going to talk about whether it's worth actually doing
So
that.
not missing a single day. However, that's not weights every day. So to be clear, my split at the moment is Monday, legs.
Woo!
Tuesday is a HIIT class, which is high intensity. I do a class called One Rebel, which is you change between sprinting and then like light weights, and there's no break. Like you're out of breath. It's a whole body workout.
Right.
You're fucked by the end of it. It's like 45 minutes long.
Cardio,
weights, sprint. It gets all your energy systems. So that's Tuesday. On Wednesday, I do upper body, so chest and arms.
Yep.
Thursday, I either do a track session at the athletics track, and that's tough. That's really tough. Or I do a lighter cardio session, depending on how I'm feeling.
Yep.
So I might go for like a spin class or something. So that's just pure cardio.
Yep.
Friday's upper body again, but this time back and abs.
Yep.
Saturday or Sunday is going to be my yoga or Pilates. So that's kind of a recovery day. There's no stress
that's more
on
like
the body.
recovery,
But I'm getting some stretching in, I'm getting some core in. And then Sunday, I do my power days, which is my Olympic lifts. So I'm doing snatches, cleans, kind of heavy weights, but like really powerful. And then I tailor it. So if I'm feeling really tired for whatever reason, then I'll just do less weight. So I don't feel like I'm overtraining.
Yeah.
For me, it's a psychological thing.
But if you're doing less weight, what's the point of doing it?
Okay, so
if you're not going all out in the session, what's the point?
My point is, I'm not doing it to get bigger and stronger necessarily.
Okay.
I'm doing it for the psychological element of not breaking the cycle. Part of it is the psychological thing. Tomorrow's not going to be the day that I miss, right? Because I have to go every single day. Part of it is an all-round health thing. You'll find that when you exercise, not only are you not eating during that window because you're exercising, but you're then eating a bit better before and after because you're like, oh, I'm about to train, I'll have this, or oh, I've just finished training and my body feels like it needs a protein shake, for example, and you're much better at utilizing food.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't train, your cellular activity is quite low.
I agree.
And then your metabolism is quite low. And then when you eat stuff, it does things differently to your body than if you had trained. So for me,
I think I can't argue with that. That's definitely the thing that I miss most from the idea of if you train less often and more hardcore. I fully agree. I wish probably if I could, ideally, I'd train same times as I do, and then on the other days I'd do like rowing machine cardio or something like that. Something that isn't just like running, because I don't really like running.
Would Mike Menter do that? Would they do? What
He
does
said
he do on his days off?
He said cardio. I'm pretty sure he said cardio is like the dumbest thing you can do. Woo!
What did he die of?
I think he was a drug addict, to be fair.
Oh, okay.
I think he died. I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll Google it.
But I think if you're going for overall health, doing just weights like 2 or 3 times a week isn't the best thing. And it's not bad for you.
I agree.
It's great for you. But I think you've got to get a variety in there. I think you've got to be a hybrid human, ready for anything. Ready if you want to go boxing, or if you want to go swimming or cycling, or like climbing up a wall, or lifting heavy weight, or you got to be able to do everything like a Spartan. Like
I agree.
Like a Greek warrior. That's
because this is the thing ultimately. Like I can feel my cardio isn't great. Woo, we don't care.
But dude, I'll tell you this: when we go,
if I could, I would do that. I would do like cardio.
And when we go to the gym later today, I'm 100% sure you'll destroy me on chest because
I don't think so, but I think what you'll see though, definitely I'll improve from my last strength, but I don't know.
Well, I've gone down, I would say, because
really?
I fucked up my shoulder.
Up your chest, yeah.
So last time we trained together, we went so hard.
Yeah.
I didn't get injured then, but then 10 days later, I trained chest again, and I was still like super pumped from the session we had. I pulled something in my left pec, and then I kind of healed it, but then went back to bench pressing. Then I had this fitness shoot, and so I basically had to train through it. And then when I stopped the fitness shoot, my body was like, okay, now we can let you know that we're aching. Had a massage on it the other day. There was some.
But this is why I think we said we were going to discuss this. So right now you can't miss a day until Christmas, right?
Yes.
But
But so for my shoulder,
Yeah.
I could work around it. So for example,
But why don't you give your body a week's break to just help it heal?
But from what? Like,
Well, like,
I could do yoga that whole week
yeah, yoga that
and
whole
just
week.
stretch off.
So that still counts as your.
My bare
That would
minimum.
still count.
My bare minimum is a 40-minute yoga class or 40-minute Pilates class. But
Yeah.
I kind of said to myself, and I didn't etch this in stone, but I kind of said only doing one of those a week
Okay.
as a recovery day. And then I have like a slow cardio day, because those really don't put stress on the body. If you're doing yoga or if you're doing Pilates, dude, you could do 5 hours of that a day and you would actually be fine. You're not stressing the body that
Exactly. Yeah.
But
Dude,
you're right.
You should,
I agree.
You
I
should do
totally
the
agree.
session.
Yeah.
The session, and then take 2 weeks of yoga only, no training, and I bet you'll come back so much stronger. Because I was thinking, okay, this is.
I'm
what
actually tempted to do that.
honestly, you should do that. Okay, so another thing I was listening to, and I can't quite remember the analogy, so maybe I'll change it a little bit. But Mike Menter was saying something about if you dig a hole. Something about digging. Look, the way I describe it is, let's say you had like a plant, right?
Uh-huh.
And if you were to cut a leaf off, right? Obviously, it would like grow back, and maybe it would grow back more. Okay, but if you keep cutting off a piece of the leaf before it has time to grow back, it's counterproductive. You're essentially going to just slowly like
I get what
chop
you're
that
saying.
plant up. So the thing is, if you train too often, especially if you train super, super hard, then your body's always going to be trying to catch up. So you won't have time for it to fully rebuild.
Yeah.
But doesn't that make sense?
It does make sense. So looking at it from a performance point of view, when I was playing rugby and we had the top S&C strength and conditioning coaches, top nutritionists, and some of the top rugby coaches in the country, and we had the best team in the country at Exeter and at Exeter University. Our training schedules, what they call it, it's not tapering, it's like tiered. So basically it changes throughout the year.
Yeah.
And you have something called pre-season, which is 2 to 3 months. And in pre-season, you are training 3-4 times per day.
Right.
You're doing a swim in the morning, you're doing weights, then you're playing rugby, and then you're doing an afternoon rugby session.
So you would do weights every single day?
You would do weights maybe 3. You would do 3 heavy weight sessions a week, usually. But then you've got all the other stuff on that. Your body's getting hit. You're getting like physically hit as well, which is a big difference. And so I was very aware, and I understand the importance of rest and recovery. I think it's so important. And I don't think what I'm doing, exercising every day, is the best way to get the best out of your body. I think it does need rest and recovery. But I think we're way more capable of things than we realize as humans, because most people have never been in a situation before where they've had to train 3-4 times a day, 5 times a week, and run into like 120 kilogram people that are hitting you back. That set me up to realize I could do anything. And what I'm doing now in comparison to that is
like
nothing, man. It's really nothing. When I stopped playing rugby, I found it so easy to keep in shape because I wasn't aching. I'd go to the gym and I'd be like, oh my God.
So that means before, when you were doing that, you were basically like aching all the time.
All the time. It's not good for you. You would get to the point where you're in season, and most rugby players can agree with this. You're basically working round injury.
What's the point of them doing that?
Because it's a comparative. I think there's 2 things. It's a comparative thing. If you survive pre-season, you're like survival of the fittest, literally. And then all of a sudden, the workload drops because the focus is on the gameplay. And they do taper the pre-season. It's not like they slowly taper off so that when you come into season, you're at a good point.
So it's almost like a selection, basically.
Part of it is
like a natural selection.
Part of that is a bit to do with natural selection, but part of it is to do with you should be able to keep up to the standard. And if you can, then the rest of the season in comparison is going to be easy. And I can say for sure, because I missed one pre-season because of an injury once, that going straight into the season without having done that, you're constantly playing catch up, and it constantly feels like you're being hit back.
Damn.
But when you've built your body up like that, it's not just your bone density, your tendon strength, the way in which your muscles react to getting hit, it all changes. You adapt. Your body adapts to whatever stimuli you give it. I think most people just haven't been in a variety of stimuli. Sure, you go to the gym and you lift weights. That's one form of stimuli.
Yeah, I agree.
And then
ultimately, no, carry on.
And then you get used to it, basically. If you or I, right now, we went for a boxing class. Like, when's the last time you went for a box? Like, punching a bag or something like that? Probably ages, right?
Basically never.
And then when I did these fights in the boxing fight, the first training session I did was just like boxing. The next day, my biceps were on fire.
Oh yeah.
Because you're lengthening the muscle so much that it's kind of like pulling on the tent. Like, I'd just been bunching them up in the gym, but the next day I was like, oh my God, I've got the most DOMs in my arms.
I bet. You're so right though, ultimately. Here's the thing. I think the best bodybuilding method probably, I do think is probably the Mike Menter, Dorian Yates thing, whatever. But you're fully right. Ultimately, bodybuilding as a sport is kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a bit...
It's not healthy.
It's not healthy. It's not about health. It's about getting as big as possible. So you are actually right. You know, ultimately, I mean, the rugby is an example, or any athlete. Like, athletes don't train 3 times a week. They train way more often.
Look at the best.
So it's way more healthy.
Look at the Tiger Woods. Look at the LeBron James. Look, all of these people that are like at the top of their sporting game.
Yeah.
Those guys are like constantly training, constantly.
Yeah, I agree. But then also, like, that's because maybe with a sport it's a little bit different, because
different.
with a sport you're training the sport, like the action of the sport. So like you're doing the golf, let's say Tiger Woods, you're doing like the actual golf skill, so it's a little bit different probably.
100% it is different. But then you look at Olympic weightlifters as well. They're doing it.
Yeah, I wonder how often they train.
I think they're split, because Matt Murray's brother was super good at Olympic lifts.
Really?
I think their split is 3 sessions a week and they taper it as well. So 1 week might be power, so they're going like slightly lighter weight, but they're working on the speed.
Yeah.
Then
but see, 3 sessions a week, that's kind of similar.
Yeah. But that's the same as rugby, by the way. Rugby was 3 weight sessions a week, heavy stuff.
Okay, there you go.
And also, by the way, what I'm saying now, exercising every day, the reality is I'm only doing 3 to 4 weight sessions a week.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely, like, good God, if you're training weights every day, that's definitely not good.
Yeah.
Every day to be training weights.
To be honest, optimally, I would do that. I would do workout, heavy lifting, intense once every 4 days. And then the other days, if I had time, if I was just like, you know, living on an island and had unlimited time, I would do like, you know, badminton and boxing and all the stuff the other day.
Even if you're just walking or being active or swimming, all of that stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's better than, like, part of the bad part of our society now is everything is sitting down in front of a desk. And that's...
Well, let me give you here's a controversial opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I know you'll disagree with, because I think you do a lot of this. But man, I'm so sick of like walking counting as cardio. Because here's the thing, right? I honestly, I'm probably fully wrong, because I don't
necessarily disagree.
Because I think the best cardio is like, don't they say is like 70% of your capacity, like UT2, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But I don't know, when people are like, oh yeah, I walked for cardio, it's like, yeah, I'm healthy, I'm walking a lot. Surely that can't count, like walking. Like my granddad walks places and whatever, or my grandparents. It doesn't count.
There's a baseline level of what is called being human.
Yeah, because we've gotten to the point now where, like, I know people who they'll be like, yeah, I did a bit of this. I walked a little bit today. So I got my steps in today. That's pretty good.
What are you, a toddler?
Yeah, that's so ridiculous.
Well done.
That's insane. That is literally like baseline. It's baseline.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. If you're a fat person, the best thing you can do to start getting into exercise is start walking. Yeah. It's the best thing you can do.
Yeah,
but that's stage one.
In that case, that's different. Yeah, it's different.
It's the best way to get you going. That's the base level. That's stage one.
Yeah.
I don't count that in my exercise.
No.
That does not count. When I'm talking about exercising every day, if I've gone for a long walk, that does not count.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
The one thing I was doing in the build-up for my preparation for the photo shoot, which... Just a quick note on that. I managed to not only keep my weight, but I managed to drop down to 6.5-7% body fat at the same weight. So I'd put on muscle. Everything you would want from an exercise regime, I achieved. Yeah. I looked the best I've ever looked.
Yeah, that was awesome.
One thing I took on board, and I've never done this before, is like going on the Step Master as that low-level cardio, but for
Jay
Jay Cutler style.
Jay Cutler, shout out, Stepmaster.
Yeah, Stepmaster, baby. And it was burning 750 calories when I would go on there for like 45 minutes, for example. And part of the reason I was doing that is because I wanted to get rid of the fat without using my glycogen stores. Because if you do intense exercise, like the stuff I'm talking about, the HIIT classes or the running at the track, you're using carbohydrates to do that. And that's being sucked out of your muscle. I wanted to use all the carbs that I was getting for lifting weights. So a lot of the cardio I was doing was low level fat burning, because you're in that fat burning zone and you're not particularly out of breath that much, but you're sweating a lot and you're using fat as the primary source.
That actually makes a lot of sense. That what you just said about the glycogen, and that's what all the bodybuilders do. Like Ronnie Coleman did that, Jay Cutler, the Stairmaster.
So Stairmasters, I would count that as exercise.
Yeah, Stairmaster for sure.
You're burning a lot of calories.
Yeah, Stairmaster for sure. Because you're literally walking up, many flights of stairs.
Yeah.
But when people count, when people are like, yeah, I did this many steps. Like if you go to London for a walk and you're like, oh, I did this many steps.
Yeah, it's not.
Come on, bro.
We're so, our perspective of what it is to be a healthy human is so warped now, because you're comparing it to what a bad human is. And because the amount of bad stuff available in terms of food and lack of exercise is so great, you feel healthy just by having less of the bad stuff, when in actual fact you're not being that healthy. If you look at the food options we have this day and age, back when Mike Menter was lifting, they didn't have any of that stuff, the processed foods that we have available now. Another thing that I realized from doing this show prep.
Wait, why is it not healthy? Purely out of interest. How come it's not healthy?
If you look at the ingredients of what's actually in there, it isn't just chicken,
chemicals,
and a burger and bread, right? Bread should have 4 ingredients in it. Bread in the supermarket has about 30 ingredients in it, including sugar, which, like, why is there sugar in there? It's got, rapeseed oils, it's got emulsifiers, lectins. It's got all these things which are designed so that their shelf life is longer and they taste better, they're more addictive, that they make you want and crave more of it. Pretty clear in the science now that the more processed food that you eat, the less you're going to live. That's a clear correlation now. But going back to the point of like Mike Menter's day and age and the bodybuilding prep, I was on such a strict diet that included just plain pure ingredients, sweet potatoes, chicken, even the way in which the chicken's cooked with the certain oils or the amount of salts, and all that was accounted for. All I was eating was chicken, sweet potato and veg. And I felt so good because I was getting rid of all the processed stuff. Next time you're in a shop and you look at your basket, pick out the healthiest thing that you think is healthy. And unless it's a raw ingredient, like a raw piece of fruit or vegetable, look at the ingredients. You'll probably be shocked. You probably won't know what 90% of those ingredients are. It is actually insane. As soon as you buy something in a restaurant or something that's ready-made, you're giving over to the other person.
So what's wrong with us? We understand that. We understand how bad all that stuff is, yet we just had a Burger King.
We're addicted. Our bodies...
Is that what it is?
Yeah, so it changes the way your brain functions. You're trying to justify the reasons as to why you're doing this and not preparing your own food. The reality of it is, if you're wanting to be as healthy as possible, you should be preparing most of your food, and it should be done in the healthiest way possible. But why don't we do it? Well, because we're addicted. Your bodies get to a point where it wants to be in constant homeostasis, so it adapts to the level of like shit you're giving it. And as soon as you dip under that level and you strip it back, your body goes out of homeostasis and is like, no, we need more of that shit. We need more.
But do you think we're addicted, or do you think it's like a convenience thing?
Both.
Because I think it's more a convenience thing, because probably if I had the option to have like a chicken and rice raw meal, I'd probably pick that. But the cost, the time, like for example, we got here, we had 10 minutes.
It's harder to find than you think.
That's hard, yeah.
It's really hard. I'm at the point where I'd happily spend as much money as possible to eat in the healthiest way. And even in town, trying to find something that is convenient, healthy, actually healthy. Even like a Nando's, like the sauce that they're putting it in has got like 30 ingredients on the sauce and it's just chicken. But it isn't just chicken. Even if you go to Tesco right now, you pull off chicken from the shelves, like chicken drumsticks, it's got dextrose in it. Like
Really?
why does
But
it
not
have,
raw chicken. You mean like
not raw
cooked chicken?
like cooked drumsticks?
Oh yeah. Preservatives and stuff.
Preservatives, all that stuff. So the best thing anybody can do for their health, if you're in a big city like London, you're living a busy life, is to take the time out. And that's the problem. Most people, including you and I, don't have that time to meal
But
prep.
then all the influencers say you shouldn't spend time cooking.
Who says that?
What's his name? Not Andrew Tate, but who's the property guy who's always in like a suit?
Oh yeah, I know.
He's always like, what if you're spending time cooking a meal? That's a waste of your time. Blah 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 blah. Blah. You should just eat food out, whatever. It makes it harder because you're like, oh, should I be?
If you have his level of wealth,
Yeah.
then you can go to top restaurants and you can say, cook this fish and don't put any of the shit on it. The problem is that's going to cost you like 30, 40 quid for a meal of fish, whatever. Like if you're out and about and you're in London and you're an average person that just wants to buy something from Tesco's.
What's all right, let's construct the perfect. We're in London, we're looking at G-Shocks and watches, we're exploring. We're hungry, we've only got Tesco's and whatever, Sainsbury's.
This isn't
what
even,
are we going to get?
This isn't even theoretical because this is what I have to decide on a day-to-day basis.
So what do we get? What's our...
Assuming I haven't meal prepped, right?
You
So
haven't
I
meal
haven't
prepped.
meal prepped, which is the biggest mistake so far because I'm now at the mercy of whatever's in Tesco's.
Okay.
The first thing you can find in Tesco's, which you can eat and is readily available, and you can just pull it straight out of the meal deal section, is boiled eggs. Those boiled eggs come with 2 boiled eggs. It's £1.10, and the ingredients is just boiled eggs. And they go off very quickly. There's no preservatives in them. So that's the first thing you can get. One of the worst things you can do is pull off like one of the sandwiches or wraps or like...
Getting a meal deal.
Yeah, a meal deal. All of that stuff is terrible for you. The second best thing, which is actually great, again, you could have this if you were prepping your stuff, is prawns. So the prawns are ready to eat and it's just prawns. So you've got prawns, you've got eggs. Those 2 things in themselves are like great. Now, ideally, you want some kind of like vegetable carbohydrate, like some sweet potato and some like a little bit of salad. Or
Maybe
something.
a banana. Sometimes I do that. Banana is a good one.
Banana's a good one, especially before
Because it's
a
still
workout.
cheap too.
Yes.
And it's not as sugary, right?
I mean, so far as fruits go, I think the way in which the banana's made is great for like a pre-workout.
Okay.
Because it does increase your blood glucose level. But that's not a bad thing. So banana is definitely another good one. But it's hard. It's really hard. And I've had to like think about this a lot because I'm always in town.
What about if you want a protein shake drink?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, instead of getting a Huel or whatever is on the shelves, is it not better to just get milk?
So there's a couple of arguments there. And I'm not an expert. This is just like...
Yeah, but let's just discuss it.
Our
Yeah.
bro science opinions. So milk, firstly, apparently, if you fed the milk that's in the supermarkets to a calf that needs milk to survive, they would die because it's been pasteurized so much that it's basically boiled and preserved in a way which isn't normal for milk. Like back in the day, going back to the times of Mike Menter, milk would come round in glass bottles and there'd be a milkman that would give it to you and you'd have to drink it within a few days because it would go off, and that's why they had people going around giving out the milk bottles.
But pasteurized is it's just boiled.
Yeah, it's just boiled.
Why is that bad? That's quite good, no? Because it keeps it
Kills
fresh
the
for longer.
bacteria. I actually don't know too much about it. I'd have to look more into that. I don't know. So I don't think milk is bad. I personally still drink milk. A lot of the population in Europe, as they get older, become lactose intolerant, and that's just a genetic thing. A lot of Europeans are able to still process lactose, but a lot of them can't as well as they get older. That gene kind of switches off. And then you start to get gastrointestinal problems, which that's just a personal thing. You'd have to realize that yourself. Milk's got a bit of sugar in, but it's got good protein in. The problem with the protein shakes is like, arguably the ready-made ones, they're even more processed and they've got like
think of all the processed stuff in like, if you pick up a protein shake, you turn it around, you start reading the ingredients.
I think our perspectives of food is actually so warped. I actually don't think people that are born past the age of 2000 that didn't see the milkman go past, that didn't see the facts that you had to go to the grocers, to the bakery, to the meat and poultry You had to go to all those individual places. But now, since we've had a supermarket and people are obsessed with shelf life and profit, then your only options are really unhealthy options, unless you now have to pay a premium to get the healthier, less.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because it's so much cheaper to eat crap.
Yeah, it is. There's a way to. When I was doing this meal prep stuff, I felt like I learned so much because I was having.
But I mean, what for the situation we're saying? It's so much cheaper to.
So the bottom line is, if you want to save money and be healthy, then my advice is this, and I got into a little routine of it. You buy sweet potatoes, right? It's between 50 pence and £1 per kilo, depending on where you shop. You chop that up into like almost chip sizes or cubes or whatever is easiest. You put that in the oven for 30 minutes. Whilst that's in the oven, you've also got chicken breast in there, and you've also got some courgette in there, and then
that's cheap.
Really cheap. You put some herbs on it, that's fine. Some salt on it, that's fine. Some pepper on it, that's fine. Even if you're like not on a super strict diet and you want it to taste a little bit better, maybe put a little bit of honey on. But as soon as you outsource another sauce, as in like literal sauce, onto the chicken, you're at the mercy of what they've put in that sauce, which is usually about 15 different ingredients. So if you want a bit of sauce on there,
honey is a good one. That's a good idea.
Tinned tomatoes, chopped up tomatoes on there, because you're getting a bit of the flavour. There's tasty ways to be on like a bodybuilder diet. And then the other thing you've got is rice. Now the problem that I encountered was, because I'm out so much, how do I get the rice? Because rice is actually potent to food poisoning. More people, I think, get food poisoning from rice than they do chicken or meat. People don't realise that if rice isn't cooled down or stored properly, you could get poison from it. You can get food poisoning from it. So what I bought was, and this was £19 off Amazon, and it was amazing, is a little cooler bag that I put my meals in at the start of the day, and it's still cool by the time I get home. So it's like a little mini fridge that I'm carrying around. So basically, the extra effort you have to go in, and I did find this annoying, to be honest, because I'm someone that accounts for each like moment of life. I basically ended up losing an hour a day. I lost an hour a day to prep my food, but I found that it was cheaper, healthier, harder, because it takes a lot of adjustment. Your body doesn't like it. It doesn't like the fact that you're not picking up like a quick, easy carb or something that's got like a nice taste to it. It's tough, but like you'll live longer.
What about salmon? What do we think about salmon? Because I've seen some like TikToks that apparently salmon is like the worst food you can eat, because unless it's wild.
The mercury poisoning, is that what they're about?
I think that's more tuna, but apparently farmed salmon is so bad for you. But I don't really know like the specifics.
This is part of the problem, is we don't know where that stuff's come from, or how it's been farmed, or what that fish is eaten, or has that cow been injected with hormones, or has that chicken been caged all its life and we're eating part of the stressed meat thing. It's so difficult. Salmon in itself, I'm sure, is healthy for you. Like,
if it's wild, then it's definitely so good.
Yeah. And when I'm out, this is the little hack actually. I found that when I was on holiday and when I was out in town at restaurants, that would be when I got most out of shape, because I'm like, I'm on holiday. I'm out. I can have whatever I want at this restaurant. What I found is you can still enjoy your time at a restaurant if you order the fish, because the fish generally comes with some veg. It still tastes nice and it has like some good sauce on it, but restaurant level fish is way nicer than any fish I could make. Way nicer. Whereas restaurant level steak isn't. I could probably do a better job.
Anybody who buys steak at a restaurant, unless you're really, really rich to where you don't care about the money you lose, or unless it's, I don't know, I can't even think of another good reason other than that. It's such a waste of money.
Unless you fancy steak and you're not concerned about the money.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean,
other than that, it's such a waste. It's such a waste. I so agree. Like, getting fish is so much better because it's so much harder to cook nicely yourself.
Yeah. And prepare as well, especially if it has bones in, or like fish dishes are the go-to if you want to stay healthy and you're on holiday. Like, dude, the Mediterranean, if you're in Greece, right? The Mediterranean diet and the amount of beautiful food you can get straight from the sea, they're like pull out. I've literally, when I was in one of these islands in Greece, I literally walked past this guy pulling an octopus out of the boat and just slinging it onto the thing to dry out outside the restaurant. And meanwhile, they're serving the octopus from like the day before or the last one that they caught, and they're serving it to people. Straight from when we went to this island in Brazil, they put in a net into the sea, pulled out some freaking prawns or whatever they were, cooked them in front of us and served it to us. And we were like,
I bet that was so good.
So good. So good. So our perspective of food living in a big city is just so warped. The best way to live longer if you live in a city, because it's really hard, is to make the sacrifice to do a bit of meal prep. And even if it's 1 or 2 meals, cutting back a little bit from having to outsource from elsewhere. I don't know. What do you do on your day-to-day? What do you prep for?
Well, actually, because I've been eating clean recently, I do similar. I do potatoes. And then instead of sweet potatoes, I prefer potatoes. So I do potatoes and chicken wings, which I just do in the oven. And I just add salt on them. And they do have way more fat than the chicken breast, but
that's not bad though, man.
I think the animal fat's probably good.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is with animal fat stuff, there'd literally be like a podcast where there's like a pro animal fat expert debating with an anti-animal fat expert, and each of them is like making valid points, like quoting a study, this and that. And dude, we have no fucking clue. But my intuition reckons that it's probably not that bad for you, so I'm just going on the risk. So I'll just have oven cooked with salt, chicken, and then just potatoes, sometimes rice.
Nice.
And that's pretty much it. And then for breakfast, Cocoa Pops, because I think they're pretty, like the cheap Cocoa Pops. Not Cocoa Pops. Which are the non-sugar ones? Rice Pops.
Rice Pops.
Yeah,
Rice
Krispies, not Cocoa Pops. Because they're pretty much, when I look at the ingredients, there's like 4 ingredients. It's basically like rice, something else, and a couple of other... No, but bro, it's mainly like, it's basically just like baked rice, I think.
Well, it's out of all of them, it's probably one of the better
It's probably
ones.
the healthiest.
But I would say that if you are going to have carbs for breakfast, then the best way to do it is probably oats, if you are going to go for it.
Yeah, but I've seen some TikToks which are really anti-oats now.
Yeah, well, there's...
But why oats? What's the difference? Who cares? Like, generally, what's the difference between the oats and the...
So from what I understand, we can look it up, but I think Rice Krispies has like cornstarch and corn syrup. Like, there's other stuff. Let's have a look.
Let's have a look.
Whilst you're doing that, I'll talk about oats.
Yeah.
So oats is the least processed cereals that you can get. I don't think there's any other cereal you can have in the morning. Another thing that's really good that I was doing during my bodybuilding prep was overnight oats. Have you said Darina had them, right?
Yeah, overnight oats.
So you put like some chia seeds in with the oats and then like a scoop of protein powder. It tastes delicious. And if you are going to have... Personally, I don't like to have carbs too early in the morning, but that's just me. I know that a lot of people do. But Rice Krispies, I'm sure...
I'm just looking it up. Rice Krispies Tesco ingredients.
I'm fairly sure there's more than just rice.
Dude, there's like 4 ingredients. I'm telling you. It's so good. Okay, Tesco Rice Snaps, 85p.
Hold up. Are these the Tesco's own brand?
Yes.
Okay.
They're healthier.
That's different to the Rice Krispies.
Exactly. They're healthier. That's what I get.
Okay.
And it's cheaper. So let's look at the ingredients. So, as a macros breakdown, okay, a little bit more than 4. Okay. Rice, sugar.
So that's the first one. It's like, why put sugar in there? It's to taste better. It's
okay, but
anyway.
Rice, sugar, barley malt extract.
Barley malt extract.
Which is an amazing supplement. Salt. Okay, let's go through this and we'll say which one's good and which one's bad and which one's neutral.
Okay.
So rice, good. Sugar, neutral. No, neutral because there's not a lot. Okay, because we're going to look up the macros after.
Okay.
So sugar, neutral. Pending decision.
Okay. I would say bad, personally.
Okay, we'll say bad / pending decision. We're going to, maybe I agree with you depending on the amount. Next one, barley malt extract.
Okay, who knows?
Bad. If we don't know what it is, it's going to be, we'll Google that later what that is. Salt.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's good.
And on a side note about salt is the mineral levels of salt vary depending on what salt you get. So table salt, which is probably what they've got in there, is actually dehydrating for the cells. You can get Himalayan salt, which has like 30 different mineral ingredients. It's actually rehydrating to the body because of the way osmosis works with that sodium potassium pump.
But I'm guessing salt, as long as you're hydrated enough.
I mean, let's give it the benefit of the doubt.
Iron.
Like
that's good, bro.
Where have they got that from?
Iron supplement.
Okay.
Niacin.
Okay.
That's a negative for sure. There's not that many left, by the way.
Okay.
Pantothenic acid. Yeah, bro. That's awesome. And then riboflavin. What the fuck? What the hell is that? Vitamin B6, thiamine, folic acid. What's folic acid?
I've heard some shit about that. Again,
really? Vitamin D and vitamin B12.
Yeah.
Considering,
I would say that's better than I was expecting.
Bad.
But back to what I was saying about the oats, and you were saying what's the difference? The difference is oats. That's it. The ingredient is that you know what you're getting. If you want to add sugar to your breakfast, fine, but you could just add some honey to the oats.
I agree. Well, it doesn't give me a per 100 grams breakdown, but it gives me a per 30 grams, so we're going to have to go off that.
So times by 6 for 100, okay.
So, times by 10 to get 100.
Quick math.
So, energy, 116 calories per... I wish they had a per 100 grams, because this per 30 grams thing is stupid. This is like when we used to play Guess the Protein. Dude, I love this. This is the best.
So what I have for breakfast is scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
Low carb. I go low carb. Scrambled eggs, maybe some salmon, maybe some avocado. And then...
Well, you can't argue with that. That's good.
If I'm having a particularly heavy day for glycogen, in terms of like I'm lifting lots of weights or I'm sprinting or something, I'll have some overnight oats as well, like maybe a couple of times a week for breakfast. But I think like the best breakfast you can have, especially if you're on a budget, is it's got to be eggs.
Eggs, dude.
Protein in there.
Honestly, eggs every single day. I probably average 4 eggs a day, average, meaning like every other day I'll have like 8 or 9 eggs in one go.
Wow.
For me, that is perfection.
Eggs are good.
And remember, there used to be like a real thing against eggs, but not anymore.
Sometimes what I do is I get the yolk out and I have like egg whites.
You don't have the yolk?
Sometimes. No, I do.
Oh,
but
okay.
Sometimes, especially if I'm on like a super diet or something.
Yeah, because I still think that the yolk is super good because it's packed full of vitamins and stuff.
Do you know who you should follow on TikTok?
Yeah.
And I tried to get him on the podcast. He hasn't responded yet. A guy bodybuilder called Eddie Abu.
Okay, I know him. Yeah.
You know his stuff where he talks about like all the shit that's in the supermarket?
Yeah.
Controversial, and he makes it like little bit
he's
more...
the one who's like, Sam Sulek's gonna die any day.
Probably.
Yeah.
But he makes things more exaggerated for the sellability of the TikTok. But if you look under it and the core message is saying, don't eat processed foods, which is the direct correlation between living longer. That's his whole thing. And he's just spun it in a way which is more exaggerated and gets people to be like, "Arr," because that's how they react.
Maybe, the only problem I have, I fully agree, but the only problem I have is to what extent, like, if you're eating loads of processed food, like processed meat, processed bread, blah, 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 I think it has a very significant effect. But let's say you're having let's say these Rice Krispies, right? And there's a little bit of maltodextrin, blah, 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 tiny bit. How much negative effect is that really having? Because, for example, right, we're recording this in London, okay? If we're really worried about our health, we shouldn't be here. Because you go into London every day, right?
Yeah.
Dude, you're screwing yourself up.
Yeah,
because your lungs are getting screwed up. So at that point, probably the negative effects on your health are way worse of like your environment and the pollution than, say, malto, dextro, folic acid.
Yeah.
A tiny bit. Because overall, if you look at the macros as long as the overall macros are pretty good and there's not huge lists of stuff, it's probably okay.
I had a guy called Gavin Wren on the podcast who's a food policy expert. That's what he does.
Really?
Yeah. And his episode will be out next Sunday. He basically talks about how there's different categories. So you've got ultra processed food, and then you've got processed food, and then you've got like semi-processed food, and then natural food. And obviously it's a continuum. Like it's not black and white. And obviously everything in moderation is fine. Like a lot of these sweeteners and artificial sweeteners, they're not bad for you in small amounts. They're really not. But
Yeah. But then some are super bad.
Yeah.
Like, what's its name?
Aspartame.
Aspartame. That's the worst. You know, they say that the biggest negative of like aspartame is when you drink that it kills off it basically kills off all the bacteria in your gut. Good, bad, whatever. But it literally apparently fries your gut.
I've heard bad things about aspartame. I've heard
that's insane.
A lot of bad things.
And I think it's officially a carcinogen in California now.
Right.
Which now, one thing I always really try and stay away from is the fizzy drinks.
Yeah.
And the aspartame.
Yeah.
And probably it's better to have a sugar full fat Coke than an aspartame. But that tastes so sweet and it's so full of sugar. That's so bad.
And a lot of the time it also has aspartame.
Yeah, and that's your reason to not drink either.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, those drinks, sugary drinks. Bro, I mean, it's so fucked. It's fucked. Because you're now considered not normal, or you're now considered on a diet if you're eating raw ingredients and like you're turning things down. People are like, oh, because there's so much of it. You go into a supermarket and probably like 5% of stuff in there, maybe less, is like what would be considered part of a healthy diet, and everything else is like packaged with loads of ingredients, and you're considered a freak if you turn down all that stuff. But our grandparents, doesn't matter where in the world you were, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, would have been subject to whatever the harvest was for that year, the season is, the availability of food in that area, and only in the last 10, 20 years have we been shown, or like you can have anything at any point in time. In the UK, for example, you would have had strawberries in summer or whenever it was in season. You would have had potatoes, you would have had meat. Like, it was just so different back then. And I don't think we'll know the full implications of what that's doing to our health until another 50 years.
Yeah, because there's now so many new factors that have never been studied.
And also, if you look at correlations between that and just look at the average person. The average person is overweight. That was not the case. You see videos of these gyms in 1960, school gyms, and under JFK's exercise regime.
I've seen that.
And they're in shape. Their jawlines are chiseled. Their skin looks good. Their hair looks good. This is 40 years ago when it was considered an anomaly. If you were fat, you were considered an anomaly because fat people didn't exist back then unless you genuinely had some kind of thyroid problem. The amount of people these days that go, I'm fat because of this or because of that.
Well, they say a lot of it now is like your gut bacteria level apparently can really, really affect your digestion / your basically you gaining weight.
So going back to what you said
about, which I found super interesting,
the sweetener that destroys you.
No, but exactly.
It just wasn't the case back then. Our grandparents, our parents, even I feel sorry for our parents, because our parents, that age between like 14, 50 years old, were the first generation that had to go through eating these things and not being aware. Our generation, have knowledge and are aware that these things are bad for you, and yet we still have them. But at least we are the ones to blame. We're making the decision as to what comes into our mouth.
Yeah.
Our parents didn't have that. Our parents were told that, or grandparents were told that smoking is good for you, or like Coca-Cola was good for you. The first adverts for Coca-Cola.
Really? Did they used to say that Coca-Cola was good for you?
Oh my God.
Dude, that's
the first
insane.
adverts for Coca-Cola. Oh my God. Someone's got to like pull that up, because there's literally some like attractive lady being like, if you want your day to be like more energized, drink Coca-Cola. And they're advertising it like it's some kind of health product. And our parents were sucked into it. The worst.
That's insane.
Sugar, it changes the way your brain thinks. You start to crave it subconsciously, and your brain thinks a bit differently. And we as a society are addicted to it. And unfortunately for our parents, they didn't know what they were getting into, really, because it slowly got introduced into society. Now it's everywhere. We can make the choice to like bin it.
And think the other scary thing is, think of all the environmental things in our day-to-day environment that are super bad for us that we have no idea about. For example, talking about our grandparents' generation, asbestos. Back then, it's like, oh yeah, asbestos, it's fine. Now, obviously, we know how bad it is.
Dude, when I was a kid, we used to run across the garages, on top of the garages. They were all asbestos garages, the roofs.
Dude.
We used to play on them.
Yeah.
And they were all old garages as well.
That's insane.
They were all
isn't
like almost like falling apart asbestos.
this makes me really worry sometimes about like 5G and then whatever Wi-Fi or my phone, and I think, and I'm still using it, which is so funny. It's because I'm more kind of like worried about it. I don't, have any particular opinions on it, but I think to myself, man, like people have this assumption in their head that, hey, if they wouldn't allow it unless it was safe, right? If someone has like some concerns about 5G or, whatever, Wi-Fi or your phone, using your phone too much, being on your phone too much, people are like, they wouldn't let you do that if it wasn't safe, bro. But guess what? They did that with asbestos. They did that with
cigarettes,
so many other things. They don't, nobody cares.
Nobody cares. No,
that's not how it works.
And do you know what pisses me off is that we are always behind. So it's like, oh, but the science doesn't show that. It's like the science hasn't caught up yet.
Exactly, yeah.
And Coca-Cola will use that as their defense as to why they can sell it. Because it's like, oh no, it hasn't been shown that it's bad for you. Oh, it probably has now. But the 5G is like, you can't say that because there's no data to prove it. And it's like, yeah, there's no data to prove it.
Yeah, because they just roll it out, don't they?
It hasn't been, how are you, you've done your data experiment on rats.
Exactly.
And you're extrapolating that to the human
population.
And
the problem is that the 5G has been around for whatever X number of years. But to do a proper like long-term study, you need 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's actually impossible.
So show me the studies where you have done on a mass population of all demographics, ages and lifestyles.
Exactly.
Where you have done on a wide enough number of people. Show me the studies you've done on human beings over a 20-year span of 5G.
Plus, you have to make sure they're unbiased studies, which is a whole other thing.
Yep. And me and Gavin spoke about that as well, of like, where does the political science get involved of food?
Pretty much everywhere.
It's always there. It's always
pretty
there.
much everywhere. That's the other insane thing now is someone eats meat, decides it's not healthy, goes vegan, thinks it's more healthy. Then when they're in that Tesco situation, instead of picking milk, they'll pick some soy milk or whatever with way more other ingredients. And then instead of picking like a bacon sandwich, they'll pick a fake meat corn sandwich.
I love the era of like 5-10 years ago when it was like, oh, vegan's so much more healthy. Like they've even got these vegan options in the supermarkets. And now it's come out that like all that vegan stuff is so bad for you.
It's bad for you, bro.
It's so bad for you. All that, it's because it's so heavily processed to get it to taste like meat when it isn't meat.
Well, why would you do that anyway?
Well, I can understand people's concern with if they're very conscious about the way animals are treated.
Yeah. I mean, but why? What's the point of chasing the meat replacement? It doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, you should just stick with your lentils.
Yeah, but as in, like, it makes fine if someone's vegan, it makes sense. That's their decision. But
I think what put them over the edge was when Greggs came out with the vegan sausage roll, and all of a sudden people were like, "Wait a minute, it can't be healthy if it's come out of Greggs and it tastes just like a sausage roll."
That's so funny.
Something's going. So my little thing that I say to myself, and I've always said this: if it tastes nice, there's usually a catch.
Yep.
Because your brain is alerted to that for some reason. There's usually a catch to it. So if it's sugar-free and fat-free and it still tastes nice, there's a catch there. Or if it's meat-free and it still tastes like meat, there's a catch there. There's nothing that tastes nice. And you know what I mean by nice. You can have like a nice salad and like have beautifully cooked fish and meat and whatever. But by nice, I'm talking about like that. Ooh, that thing that your body's like, ooh, there's some sugar in here, or there's some like chemical in here that, there's a chemical that does something to the receptors in your mouth where it excites them, taste receptors, so that you could put that chemical on shit and you could eat the shit and it would still taste nice.
No way.
Yeah. And they put that in. Don't quote me on this, but I think they put it in.
So what else would we want to talk about? Are there any other topics?
I mean, we just spent an hour talking about gym and food, which I think is cool.
So that's good, because if you're here listening for a music podcast,
Oh shit,
not,
yeah. Oh shit, we should talk about like the journey of a singer.
Yeah. So bodybuilding.
No, I like it, man. I think
That's so good.
people are always quick to pigeonhole you, especially if you've pigeonholed yourself, right? Until you do something which is outside the box and you do it multiple times, and then they go, oh, he does that as well.
Yep.
So like with the podcast, I remember my mate messaging me going, why have you got that guy on? Because not you, but someone else that I had on the show. They were like, why have you got that guy on? He's not a singer. I'm trying to think who it was now. The first one I had on that wasn't a singer. My mate was like, what's this got to do with singing? But now I've had so many people on that aren't singers, that I think it's, you know, like Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the world, and he has all sorts of people on there. It started off with just him and his mates talking shit, and he's ended up with politicians. As soon as he got the first politician on, people were probably like, why is he going into politics? But now Joe Rogan is considered to be...
He's like the biggest. He's basically like the biggest show you could be on.
Yeah, and even for politics as well.
Yeah, apparently he's going to like interview Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, I heard about this one.
That's going to be insane. I cannot wait.
That would be cool. That would just be entertaining.
Yeah. Just 3 hours of a Trump interview.
But until you do something out... I remember when I first started singing, people were like, why is he singing? He's a rugby player. And when I first started doing the podcast, people were like, why is he doing a podcast? And dude, I've learned to just ignore everyone's opinion.
Absolutely.
I don't. You know, I found it. You know, what's really helped me with that is, especially now, this week I've got 12,000 new followers this week on TikTok.
Yeah, I saw you. Oh, so you're on like 50,000 total.
I'm on like almost 60,000 now.
Dude, that's insane.
I got over 1 million views this week on my channel, and loads of comments, like thousands of comments, and I'm going through them. You know how Joe Rogan says, because he works in the fight business and he's watched so many people get beaten up, he's become desensitized to violence. I feel like I've become desensitized to comments.
That's so good.
Because I scroll through so many of them, I dissociate them from being anything personal.
Yeah, negative comment. I mean, this is the thing. Like, people, if anyone in your life ever says something negative, I don't see many situations where it's justified for you to like take it to heart.
No.
Who really cares?
What do we mean by take it to heart? Because
well, like, you shouldn't let it emotionally affect you.
But for example, if you told me something, I would value your opinion.
Yeah.
If you were like,
but that's because we're best friends.
Yeah. So you've got to be very selective as to who you trust the judgment of.
Yeah, that's so true.
And everyone else that you don't trust the judgment of. If you wouldn't have that person in your house sleeping over, and here's a good one. If you wouldn't trust that person with your credit card, then don't take their opinion on anything. Because, dude,
bro, that's actually a good one.
I can give you my credit
you
card
need to
right
clip
now.
That.
Yeah,
that's a good one. If you can't trust someone with your credit card, you should not give a shit about what they're saying.
Then you shouldn't trust them with
their opinion. Yeah, it doesn't. That's so true,
dude. I'd leave you with my wallet for a year, and then that.
Yeah, a lot of G-Shocks.
And at the same time, I'd expect you to purchase G-Shocks.
Yeah.
So
that's correct.
That's what I'd expect you to do.
Yeah.
Max out. I would expect you to max out on this credit card.
G-Shocks. No, but that's actually a really good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Now, the other thing is this, and this is maybe a counter to the point that I just said. I do care about my Instagram page because I care about potential clients coming on and looking at my stuff. I want my Instagram to be a CV portfolio for them to go, oh, this guy's very professional, slick, and we can put him in the room with the King of Sweden and he can sing for them.
That's true.
Which, by the way, on a side note, I sang for Swedish royalty this week, which was kind of...
Oh, bro, that's insane. I remember you. That's when we were calling after, right? It was on Friday.
Yeah, I sang for them on Friday. So that was kind of cool. But back to the point, Instagram should be like a reel. And I would want anyone to go on there and be like, okay, and if I posted something a bit off or not on brand, and they're like, oh, I don't like this, I just wanted to book a singer or whatever, then that does affect me. Because that directly affects my income and my booking potential.
Yeah, because reputation is so important. Like your personal brand, it's kind of like your reputation.
So back to not caring what people say, I think like, I'm sure you care about like what people at your work think,
Yeah.
You have to.
You know, that's what makes it complicated. You shouldn't care about what people say, but then you kind of should care about what people say.
Yeah. Oh, I shot myself in the foot.
No, but it's true.
Dude, I thought I had a clippable thing.
Yeah, but just clip this bit out.
Okay.
Woo. Just make it a short little clip.
Yeah. Because the thing is, if you didn't care about what anyone thought, you would basically be self-entitled. And
Yeah.
I mean, I care about being part of a society. And
Yeah, so actually you should care.
yeah.
You know what? How's this? Normalize caring what people think.
Yeah.
Because actually, everyone's always like, we don't care about what people say.
No, you should care about what people say.
You actually should.
Oh, it doesn't matter like what you're wearing sort of thing. Or like, you shouldn't care what people think. But the reality is...
It does matter what you're wearing.
You know how contradictory I sound right now.
Yeah, but hey, but it's good to contradict yourself.
Okay.
It is good because it means that you're going on a journey of thoughts. And as long as you admit that you contradict yourself, that's good.
I care so much about my appearance on stage.
Yeah.
So much.
Because guess what? You're a performer and you should. And anyone, you know what? Okay. I'm going to flip this 180, okay? Forget everything I just said about, we shouldn't care about what people say. There's actually a problem in society where people will use the term of like, I don't care what people say about me to basically bring you down. So for example, if you're wearing something nice, if you are taking an effort to wear like a nice top and then think about what you're wearing, blah, 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 people will be like, why do you care what people think? Just wear whatever you want. But actually, it should be encouraged for you to care about. I mean, you're a performer, dude. I should be
telling everyone. I should be literally telling everyone right now, you should care what people say.
Yeah.
You should. But there's a line, isn't there? I think the reason we're contradicting ourselves is because it's not black and white. Oh man, it's tricky. When you get into these thought processes, you realize that there's no right or wrong answer. Because if there was, then everyone would know that there's a right. It's like with the training thing. There's no right or wrong way to train, particularly. There's no like perfect way to do it. That's why there's so many opinions. And by the way, we didn't touch on this before, but when we had this discussion in the past, I was saying whenever anyone takes on a new training regime, it's the shock factor to the body which makes them adapt. Because you're so adapted to your training program before, whenever you try something new, your body is adapting to it and therefore you're getting better because of the shock factor. Which is why there's so many of these programs out there and why so many people are getting results from all these different programs. You've been doing the same thing for 12 years and then you switch to a new program. Of course you're going to get results because your body's not used to that new thing. It's like going back to what I said about the boxing. Like it's not even lifting weights, you're just throwing a punch, but your body's not used to stretching the bicep like that.
In that motion.
Yeah. So I watched the Oppenheimer movie. Have you seen it?
No. Is it worth watching?
I thought it was really good.
It's about the atom bomb inventor, right?
Yeah. And there's a few things from that movie that I took. The first one is, this is going to sound crazy, but in general, I think about the world war like probably on a daily basis.
Really?
Because what
Me too.
What actually pisses me off about society, people walking around complaining about things. And it's like, you realize that in the world war, there would have been bombs dropped on your head right now. And you're complaining that your latte is too warm or too cold. Like, the perspective of what a problem is in this day and age is totally blown out of proportion to what a real life problem is. The other thing that gets me, imagine right now that the troops had returned to the UK, to England, right? As a woman, your husband may or not have survived the war. If you were lucky enough that your husband was there and survived the war, just think how happy you would be to see that person. How long did it take for those two people to have an argument? Or to argue about the dishes?
I wonder, that's a really interesting question.
Or to argue about the sheets not being made?
I tell you what, that is a question I would love to ask someone who was in that situation. Because that's fascinating. Because you know what's interesting? Maybe they still did have arguments about that. I don't know. It's really interesting. We'd have to ask.
We as humans adapt so quickly, and our level of comfort the bar of comfort gets dropped so quickly. It's scary to what you think a problem is. And that's why it's good to put yourself in scenarios that are genuinely, that's why exercise is so good. That's why pushing for your goals to get to the next level is so good, because your bar of problems becomes higher. The bigger you get as a business, the more problems you have. you're no longer caring about like, oh, I've got to pay 2 people. It's like all of a sudden you've got to pay 100 people. But so back to the Oppenheimer thing, there was that. It really brings things into perspective. Like your day-to-day problems mean shit.
Yeah.
You're not getting shot
And
at.
every single thing that we go through every single day in life, I think it's good to stop and be like, this is awesome. I get to do this right now. Like we had a Burger King.
Yeah.
Dude, how awesome is that?
We walked into a store and within 2 minutes
And guess what? We don't even have to worry about the finance because we're lucky. We don't have to worry about that. We can afford to just feel like getting a Burger King? Yeah, we'll just get a Burger King. Or, dude, sometimes if I'm eating like an apple, I'm just thinking like, man, this is so awesome. We just get to eat an apple right now. Or how awesome is this? Like when I went into the Airbnb, me and Dorina were like videoing it. And I sent a video to you. I sent a video to my sister. I sent a video to my baby brother. I sent a video of it to Charlie. The same video. Like I made a new one each time. And I was thinking like, damn, and Dorina was making, my girlfriend was making videos for like her mom and her friends. And I was thinking like, man, I said to her, we're so lucky because we have like 4 or 5 people. Then when we turn up to an Airbnb, we can send them a video of it. How cool is that? Like little tiny things. How insane and awesome is that? Or a watermelon. When you have a watermelon, I mean, that's insane.
Bro, like the life we live now.
We're lucky.
We're so lucky. And you've got to remind yourself about that every day. And that's one of the reasons I think about the World War every day. We're not at war. We're not in the trenches. We're not rationing food. You don't have to go and line up in a line and give over a ticket so that you can have 2 slices of bread for the day.
Well, dude, and the UK had it really good in World War II. Really good. I remember once when I first came to the UK, we had a really old Russian lady, and we came around to some like meal like at someone's house, and there was a really old English lady, and both of them had lived through the war. And the lady, I think I forgot her name, but she was like, it was so hard in World War II. Like we had to make cake from bread, and it was just so difficult. And the Russian lady was like, that's nothing. That, Europe suffered like so much more during World War II. And isn't it interesting? That same thing of like the problems, there was a layer even within that. So in the UK, there was like rationing, but that was the least of your problems because there was rationing and maybe you'd get bombed occasionally. But ultimately in Europe, in like Poland and Russia, people were getting shipped off en masse. Rationing was the least of your problems. Your home was getting like burnt out. You're getting hunted by Nazis.
Bro,
even there was that like first world problems.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
We live in the most comfortable time in the world, and yet we live at a time when I hear the most complaints. People love to complain, and they fail to appreciate that we live in the safest, in this country right now, probably one of the safest places. If you had to pick a pinpoint in the history of mankind, you would probably pinpoint today. When else would you want to live?
Yeah.
If you right now had the choice to transport to any other point in human history, all the way back to the Neanderthals, you would still pick the modern day and age. Maybe like the 50s or 60s or whatever.
Maybe I'd transfer to like 2015. You know what I mean? Like, it was a bit better than like 5 years ago. It's 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I think I'd love to stab at the 50s and 60s. I think I would like that time.
Really?
But the point is...
Well, the 50s and 60s was a very special time because if you look at the amount of progress that was happening in the 50s and 60s, it was massive. In the US, in the Soviet Union, massive amounts of progress. And actually, that's the kind of boom that China is seeing now. And everybody likes to hate on China, but whatever anyone thinks, most of the time, I don't know if you saw that viral video of Andrew Ma interviewing the Chinese ambassador.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Is that the one where...
He's like, China's a friend.
Yeah.
We're not competing in this and that.
Yeah.
But he basically like lays out how much better China is doing than the UK in every aspect.
But it really brings things in perspective. And that's why like every morning I try and like go into the... Because, dude, I feel like people really don't grasp this concept. When you wake up in the morning, you need to take a moment of time to realize that there aren't bombs being dropped on your head and that you're not in the trenches and that your ancestors...
Which is going on right now in, say, Ukraine.
On in parts of the world.
Yeah.
Not even just Ukraine. Like, think about all the areas where people are trying to kill each other right now.
Yeah.
Dude, think about Africa. 7,000 Africans that turned up in Italy yesterday on a boat.
Really?
7,000 Africans, all men, just turned up on a boat and just landed on this island in Italy. Because for
7,000?
Dude,
Are you serious?
7,000 Africans. Guess the population of that Italian island.
Which island was it?
I don't know. 6,500.
6,500? Are you serious? Is that true?
I think so. We should Google it because I'm probably talking about my ass. I'm regurgitating information.
Imagine if it's how many turned up? So was it 7,000? It can't be, surely.
6,800 came in 24 hours.
Wow.
Higher than the island's population.
Imagine.
Yeah. They came up through Tunisia. Up from Africa. The point is,
via Tunisia?
Yeah, they came up through Tunisia.
I wonder what main country they're coming from.
But Africa's another level. We don't know what's going on right now in the Amazon and the Africa, and like we wake up and we have so much opportunity as a human to go out.
Lucky.
And when I know this sounds all negative, but when I think about these things, I wake up and I'm so fucking pumped for the day because I know that my great granddad, who I've had conversations with, he's not alive now, but he fought in World War II, and I just think what he had to go through so that I could wake up in London to pursue my dreams as an actor and a singer is phenomenal. Like,
yeah,
I owe it to him and everyone else from all the other countries that gave their life to war. I owe it to them to use the freedom that they created to my absolute maximum.
Yeah.
Everybody owes it.
Well, you owe it as well to whoever's on a boat trying to come here via Italy, because
exactly
just to be in less of a position than you, i.e. come to a country with no money, they're willing to basically like risk their life, and we get to just be here. We're already here.
Yeah.
So that's actually a good. I do always think that is a reason why you should always try and push yourself as much as you can, because there are people who that's not on their priority list, because they're on their priority list is like survival. And since we're not in that situation, we should really push ourselves.
And comfort is a killer. Comfort is a killer. Like as soon as you get comfortable, there's that pyramid of needs, that psychology pyramid of needs. And at the bottom is all your basic needs, like your food, shelter, safety, all that kind of stuff. Once you've ticked those off, your brain kind of switches off a little bit and you're not as hungry, literally and motivationally, you're not as hungry for stuff. And you've got to trick your brain. And then a way to do that is to remind yourself that there are people on boats from Africa trying to get into your position in Europe because they want a better life. They want the life that you've got.
They're probably willing to work hard and not slack.
Dude, I bet their work ethic, if they've managed to trek across Africa, they've got to be tenacious.
Well, yeah, they'll be in like a little boat.
Well, think about those people that have escaped North Korea. Think about the tenacity that they have to go through. Going back to the Oppenheimer movie, something else that I found super fascinating was, and I didn't realize this was the case, but obviously Einstein's in that movie, and it gives you like this point of, oh my God, that's the literal handing over the baton of physics, because Einstein is like towards the end of his life, and Einstein wasn't a fan of quantum physics. He was a classical physicist. And he started to believe more in God and the divine and religion and that kind of thing.
So he was religious when he died, Einstein?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Damn.
Yeah. So, but during the time in which Einstein was still alive, World War II and the atomic bomb was being made. And all these physicists came to Einstein on multiple occasions to ask his opinion on stuff because they wanted to check the classical physics. And what's super fascinating is when you go down to a quantum level, classical physics doesn't really add up. The laws of physics change when you get to quantum physics. Even things like gravity and stuff like that, they don't quite add up. And Peter will know more about this. But there was a close to zero chance that when they did the test for the atomic bomb, it would cause a chain reaction that would destroy the entire world. But considering that they are now basing their calculations on quantum physics, where there's more unknowns and it's a newer science, you just got to damn well hope, kind of like when you're launching rockets, you got to damn well hope that your maths is on point and that your theories add up, because and even if they did add up, there's still a chance that atomic bomb, that test bomb that they did in the desert, could have chain reacted and blown up the whole world. So I think every time they drop an atomic bomb, there's always a slim chance that it will keep going.
Really?
And just wipe out the whole world.
Well, it's good. I think they've banned testing them now. They don't test them anymore, which is good.
Yeah, that's probably
Apart from North Korea.
Are they still testing?
They still test.
Fuck.
Damn.
How crazy is that?
That's insane. I mean, the things people were willing to do during the Cold War and World War II was crazy. I swear some American scientists were going to trying to blow a hole in the atmosphere, in the ozone layer or something.
I really respect...
In the 60s or in the 50s. They did some crazy stuff.
They did some crazy... And you know what?
Do you know about MK Ultra?
Yes. Yeah.
You know about MK Ultra?
Yeah.
That's insane, bro.
LSD on
They were literally
soldiers.
kidnapping people. No, they were kidnapping people off the street.
Yeah.
And giving them like LSD doses and just like basically killing them and trying to see if they can control their minds.
Yeah.
And apparently they like realized it didn't work, apparently, and just abandoned it. But they would kidnap people off the streets.
Oh man.
The Cold War was on another level.
But I need to rephrase what I was about to say. I really respected the government officials' ability to like try things. Successful sides, winning sides, have tried things that are like, this could work, but it might not. Like during World War II, they made like a inflatable army so that they would distract Hitler. And they even had sounds playing as though it was an army in big speakers to make it look like...
Yeah, I think it was like the false landing of D-Day. They made like a false build
thing.
up. Yeah.
But then you watch films like, there's this one with Cumberbatch in it. It's about the Alan Turing.
Yeah.
Have you seen that
He's
film?
from Guildford.
He is from Guildford. Yeah.
Damn.
Have you seen that film?
I haven't.
Dude, that film also is kind of like Oppenheimer, where it opens up your eyes to like the stuff that they would try just to try and get ahead. And
it's a shame because he broke their code, but then he got like basically chemically castrated because he was gay.
And then he killed himself. It's a sad one. And another theme is that the politics then turn on the scientists. So like when their job is done, they're an easy scapegoat. Like if something goes wrong, well, look, the science didn't add up. That was on them. And then in this movie, The Oppenheimer, it shows it how when World War II was over, Oppenheimer came under loads of stick because of the atomic bomb and all this kind of stuff. And it's really interesting. Yeah. But I mean, history is rewritten by the winning side, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
The winning side is glorified, and obviously they made the right decisions.
Yeah.
It's very...
Although I guess in World War II, so like if you look at it really objectively, to be fair, that's probably one example of a war where I really do think there was like a good and bad side.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to debate that Hitler was a good person. Doing good things, isn't it?
Whereas other wars are like...
Yeah, especially when you're first defining things, like the lines on a map. Every single line on a map was defined by some form of agreement or war. Yeah,
exactly.
And think of the amount of lines on a map. So many.
But that's what's even crazier is that's kind of happening now. In Europe, you know, people are going off and both sides, they have to go off and just like kill each other. Your skill doesn't even really come into it because it's mostly like artillery and you just get killed like sitting in a trench.
Yeah, you're a cog in a system.
You're literally just another pawn. Isn't that insane?
Dude.
Meanwhile, we're here.
We're here talking bro science. Complaining about maltodextrin.
Bro, Rice Krispies is the new thing.
Like, I think the biggest thing you can appreciate is your health.
Yeah.
Actually, I love these quotes where I see things like, the 20-year-old guy spends all his time thinking about the luxury car that he wants and the watch, and like by the time he's 50 or 60 and he has that, all he can think about is the health that he had when he was 20.
Yeah.
And actually the biggest asset you can have is having a six-pack. A six-pack gets you more respect than a watch or a car.
Yeah, like that video you sent me,
Yeah.
They talk about how very few people have a six-pack, but a lot of people have nice cars and nice houses.
Yeah, and it's something that money can't buy. So it's a true... Because the thing is, there are people that have inherited money, or people that have squandered money, or people that have got money in unethical ways and they've got the house and the car. You don't know exactly how that person's got the money or how fair it was. But everyone, when it comes to health and fitness, not everyone, like some people have disabilities and are at a disadvantage, but everyone has the chance to get a six-pack. But most people on this planet will never visibly see their abs.
Although, as a countermeasure, purely just I want to just out of interest to push back on that, the only thing that I would say against that is it's not actually that hard to get one. And having one, I'm purely being devil's advocate or whatever, purely just arguing against you. I do agree with you though. But it's not that hard to have one. And B, by having one, what are you really achieving for humanity or other people just by you having a six-pack? Which, and I'm interested in that because obviously you're point. Saying that from the video of the guy, you sent that video of the guy who basically says like, yeah, there's 22 million millionaires in the US, but only 3 million people have a six-pack, and it's like blah, 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 blah. But let's say if you're a millionaire because you invented some patented technology which helps improve the speed of payments or something, but you don't have a six-pack. But then maybe you have a six-pack, you don't really have anything else, you're just like a bodybuilder with a six-pack. I think there's one of the dangers of, okay, well, what does that actually do?
No, you're right.
Which is another, not to bring it back to Mike Menter, but that's another point Mike Menter made. He was basically like, bodybuilders love to train for 4 hours a day because they've got nothing else to do. And he was like, they don't actually want to like develop themselves as humans. They just want to go to the gym and get bigger. And so his point was, you should train less because it will mean that you will have more time to develop yourself as a person.
Agreed.
But it, again, I fully agree with you about the 6%, but it does make me think sometimes like,
and I agree with you. And I agree with both points. And I think this is, sometimes I think I should be less open-minded and stick to a point more, but I'm very open to the different sides of the story.
Yeah, me too. I think it's important to flip everything on its head.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I think there's a lot of people that are like in great shape that aren't doing a lot. I'm just thinking in terms of assets, like what would you want the most? Like an AP watch, a Lamborghini, or to be in great physical health? Most people, I think.
If I had to pick one, obviously health. And health beats anything.
And I think that's like probably the point I agree with most, is that you should be most appreciative of your health rather than your materialistic possessions. Yeah. And the reality is you're healthier in your 20s than you are in your 60s. So whilst it's good to be motivated by the watch and the car, not to get like depressed or upset if you don't have that, because the reality is your health is good.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the point.
I fully agree. I mean, think how much you would pay. I always think this to myself.
Dude, think how much people do pay to get cosmetic surgery.
Well, let's say you have a health issue. And when someone has a health issue or their life is at risk, they're willing to pay everything they have to fix that. And we get to have that right now in this moment for free. And it's crazy because, probably the richest man in the world might give away all of his money just to be in your position right now.
Yeah, I think about that a lot.
And we think,
I think we're probably
done.
We're probably over time.
We had a pretty good one though.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, it's 6 o'clock.
Okay, let's wrap up.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, buddy.
Woo!